Hi, Sweet Pea.
Hi, Mummy Bear.
We have another Chit-Chat. This one is number 51 with Chris Daghorn.
Sure is. And this was such a lovely chat to have. We saw him on Gardener's World and we thought, gosh, I think there's even more stuff we can find out about him. We love finding that little bit extra, that little bit further. And anyways, we got it in just gallons of information. Gallons of information. Plants I had never heard of before. It was really incredible, and top tips.
We had a lot of Googling to do afterwards, didn't we?
Yes.
He's a fascinating person with a wealth of knowledge. He was on Gardener's World showing his bog garden, his little wildlife garden.
There's little tweezers.
That's right, yeah. He had the tweezers who's pulling out a seedling from his bog garden.
Exactly,
But he really has a wealth of knowledge, and it was so fun and interesting chatting to him. I did have to Google a lot afterwards, and here are some of the things that I looked up. So first of all, Chris has a multitude of websites.
He does.
I will be putting all those links onto our
really
website
cool as well,
which is notjustagarden.co.uk.
Yeah,
I think he's got 4 websites, possibly something like that, and probably growing.
Check them all out.
His latest one is called treacle.org, and that's tree as in trees with a "cull" on the end. And on there, it's a huge database of trees, and we had a look at it afterwards. And currently, he's got over 450 trees on there, and it's really great. You can basically go in, click on a tree, it'll give you a distribution map of where that exists in the world. So some dots on the map,
which is so helpful.
And then it'll also let you know things like the taxonomy of the tree, whether it's British native or not, the leaf fall, whether it's good for hedging, what pH soil it needs, all the information you can need about trees. So highly recommend having a look at that. It's in its infancy, so it's only growing,
which is
incredible. I think it's a really wonderful resource. Then also we were wondering how you grow sphagnum moss.
Yes.
And I did go and have a look through my notes, because we also discovered that Chris knows Moss Clarks, who were on Gardener's World a few months ago, possibly last year. And I looked up what we had on Moss Clarks, and they grow their sphagnum moss on clay pellets.
Oh, yes, that was it. Okay.
Does that ring a bell?
Good to know. That does ring a bell.
Then also, Chris talks about butcher's broom, and I had Googled it whilst we were chatting, and I said, it's good for the blood vessels, and we didn't really have much more information than that. But I can tell you, Sweet Pea, it's good for reducing inflammation, poor blood circulation.
Fantastic.
Orthostatic hypotension and hemorrhoids.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. If you've got those, take this.
Yeah. It'll sort your piles in a jiffy. I don't know how quickly it'll sort your piles, but anyway. Another option.
Yeah, it is.
And Chris also talks about childhood memories of trips to Skomer Island off the Welsh coast, and how he remembered one tree that existed there and he wasn't sure what it was. So I did a little bit of super sleuthing, and I found an article in The Independent by Nicholas Swanborough, and he describes this one tree, saying there was only ever one tree on the island, a black poplar, and that died in 1994. So that is the tree that Chris was thinking about.
That was the tree. That's incredible. Also, I do just want to say is that the setup for this podcast, Chris's end, was really, really funny. We came onto the chat and he was in this he had created himself a little cubby hole of cushions surrounding him so that the sound would be as precise and perfect as possible.
Very professional.
It was very, very professional. So I thought that was absolutely lovely.
Well, so on that, in terms of noises, we're pretty good thanks to Chris's setup.
Yeah,
we do hear him rubbing his hands together a lot, so you might hear that kind of noise.
What could I have next? But I mean, you do that when you're thinking, don't you?
And you had a cold, didn't you, Sweet Pea? So a few sniffs from your end, which I didn't manage to hit. But as always, we will be putting all links onto the website, and we will also be putting Chris onto our Rogues Gallery on the website.
And his recommendations.
You can find a link to his episode there and all his recommendations on the Gardens page. And if you want to get in touch, if you have any questions or any comments, then please do so. We have a contacts page on the website.
Absolutely.
Or our email address is notjustagarden@outlook.com.
Yes, we welcome anything you want to send us.
So, Sweet Pea, tell us the format.
So, for Chris's Dream Garden, the format was garden boundary, shed or greenhouse, 5 ornamentals, 5 edibles, 1 statement tree, pond or pool plus 1 plant, and finally favourite seating area, drink, and 1 plant for that area.
Right, well, let's have a listen to this one.
Absolutely.
This is episode 51, a good old chit-chat with Chris Dagon.
Off we go.
Welcome, Chris, to Good Old Chit-Chat.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here.
It's lovely to see you. You seem to be set up in, it looks like you're in some sort of botany room or something. You have all sorts of
it's actually,
pictures behind you.
I've got a sort of second lounge in my bedroom, but it's yes, I got some stuff up here from the field. I've got so I not only have a garden, but I also have a field because I sort of overgrew the garden and needed more land to grow trees.
Okay.
But I've got sort of the first plan I did of the field before I even knew which one I was going to be buying up on the wall. Yeah,
and the teasel, what's the
teasel is? I believe that teasel is from the field, so it was like the first teasel which grew up on the field.
Nice,
yeah.
And then I've got over here. I've got like a little coin which I found when I was digging in the allotment a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
Just like a 16th century coin which I dug up, which is
amazing.
Very, very cool.
And the top one,
it was.
from the garden.
Oh, that was from like a holiday.
That's okay.
A trip today, yeah.
So that teasel's got sentimental value then.
Yes, absolutely. Because the field, it's all about bringing back nature. In sort of more wild settings. So the garden's about bringing nature into where I'm living, whereas the field is more about how can we bring back nature in a place where nature should naturally be.
Right. Well, so lots to talk about. So first of all, we should explain, you were on Gardener's World this year with your pocket wilderness garden.
Yeah.
In Weston-super-Mare, is that right?
Yes, in Weston.
And so are you right by the sea?
Not far. I'm about 20 minutes walk from the sea if I want to go to that beach. There's a much nicer beach over the hill, so that's the one we tend to go to. Everyone knows Weston-super-Mare is Weston-super-Mud, and it's got the large expanses of mud, but there's a lovely sandy beach which tourists don't know about just over the hill.
I wish we had known about that, Sweet Pea, when we went to Weston-super-Mud, because it was just mud and donkey rides. It wasn't the best experience. So you've got a nice sandy one hidden away for the locals.
Yeah, I mean, the main beach is lovely because you can see all the way across to Brean Down. I actually work in a building where I'm up quite high up and you can see all the way across. It's a beautiful view,
perfect.
But nice.
It's not as beautiful when you're on the beach and stuck in the mud.
Not so pretty. So your garden was a little garden that you transformed. I remember on the show, I think you said you've been there about 8 years. And
that's right.
Said how it wasn't how you wanted it to be when you moved in before you then transformed it to what it is. What kind of garden was it?
Well, I could see it had a lot of potential, but it was basically I could see that there was a lot of land underneath all of the stuff which was there. There was like kind of astroturf bit of grass. There was some decking which you could put your foot through as soon as you walked across it, and then and then the only other thing there was like a bike store and a massive workshop, which was built from sort of wood scraps.
Right.
Yeah.
What sort of size is the garden?
Yeah.
It's about, I think it's about 10 meters from one end to the other, and then it's like an L shape.
And
then it's sort of about 8 meters across from the other way, but because it's an L, you don't get that full size.
Yeah. And also didn't get any feel for that at all.
No,
from
had
the
no
show.
idea it was
So
L-shaped.
is it a mid-terrace house? What kind of property is it?
It's 1930s semi-detached house with a side return, which is the bit which I've got the pond in. And then when I sort of started working on the pond and stuff, earlier than that even, there was a lot of concrete which was across the entire thing. So basically most of the garden in the back garden was concrete. So I had to break all of that up, and then I used that as infill to raise up the level of the back garden.
I see.
And then just used the soil. I used the soil underneath it, dug up the soil, put it on top, and then so I sort of flipped the back garden
on its head. So you moved in there seeing astro and rotten decking and bits and pieces shed, and you just knew that was the right spot for you for what you wanted to do with rewilding.
It was amazing. I mean, one of the things which I loved about it is that there's this little lane down the side of the house, and there's a cliff as well, and I could see the potential there of where I come from, a kind of an ecological family. My dad worked for the RSPB, my sister manages nature reserves, and it was all kind of instilled in us, grandparents volunteer with bird organisations. It's instilled in me from a very young age. Like
it's there, it's in the blood.
It's there. You can't get rid of it.
So did the garden appeal to you because it was such a challenge? Because it had all those awful things that so astro is such a swear word.
I mean,
it
wasn't so much the challenge as the location, because being underneath that massive cliff, it means you got this really wild area which no one can touch. There's this kind of, from the top of the cliff to the bottom of the cliff, there's a lot of plants. And there's also foxes which live up there. They have a den up there, and turns out there's like a cave further along, and there's badgers and all
fantastic!
Sorts, and
that's amazing.
Some really cool bats.
Can you explain this cliff? How tall is the cliff? And are you in the shadow of the cliff?
No, so it's a south-facing cliff.
Oh, right. Okay,
which is great because it keeps the garden a bit warmer in winter.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
So actually, my garden's one of the first ones to get blossom first thing in the spring. It's
perfect.
maybe twice the height of the house.
And what is the cliff?
It's a limestone, like a lovely limestone cliff. They're gorgeous.
Oh,
honestly.
I like that.
So it's just a ridge.
Yeah, well, I think it used to be a quarry where my house is. So technically, where my house is right now is under the soil.
I see.
And they've sort of chopped into the slope, taken a triangle out of the slope, and left that cliff.
Yeah.
There.
Oh, fantastic! So you get your own microclimate there.
Yes.
Do you get much frost?
We do get frost, but I think it's less than, other gardens. And the kind of plants which I'm usually growing are not stuff which is frost sensitive, and I've got a greenhouse if I need it. So
okay.
Perfect then.
So we saw the garden on the show, and you've talked about a field as well. What is this field?
So not that far from my house is this 3.5 acre patch of land, which is like at the place me and my kids go to sort of reset and be, it's I bought it. When did I buy it? Beginning of 2022. So how many years is that now?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Nearly 4.
Yeah, nearly
and
4.
We've planted over 600 trees there. We've got 7 massive ponds, almost sort of semi-lake like size, which got put in. Yeah, we got a grant.
You built those,
which is great.
Oh my goodness. So many questions. We need to back this up. So, I mean, you say, we bought a field. That's not a regular occurrence.
No,
so
it's not.
Not usually. No.
How did it come about, buying a field?
Well, basically, I have some friends who they remortgaged their flat and bought a yacht, and it was always their dream to sort of live on a yacht. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't know you could do that.
I could remortgage the house and buy a field.
Yeah, and as soon as I realised that, I was like, I've always had this dream that I'd own a nature reserve, like since I was a little kid. But I was like, obviously, it's not a realistic dream. It's like dreaming of being an astronaut or something.
Yeah.
But I looked into the price of land, and it's actually, it's the field costs about the same as like a nice new car. It was like 35,000.
Okay. Oh,
so
that sounds good.
Which is a lot less than my property by a huge amount. So it was more a case of like, what was the commitment I'd be taking on more than what was the cost. And once I'd remortgaged the flat, I'll be paying that off for a very long time. But, it's worth it for me and my kid because we get out there all the time.
Yes, absolutely. What size is the field?
3.5 acres. So it's about two football fields is what I've been told.
Yeah,
I don't spend a lot of time on football pitches. So.
No, it doesn't sound like it. You're in your field.
Yeah.
So
it takes about 5 minutes to walk from one end to the other. Is the sort of scale of it.
Oh, I love
that. And is it amongst other fields?
Yes. So it's very much sort of stranded in the midst of lots of other fields, so I'm very subject to whatever they're doing in there. So if they're doing good management, well, not good management, but if they're doing kind of management which encourages wildlife on theirs, then I'll get more wildlife on mine. So I've got barn owls and kestrels and grass snakes and all sorts of stuff which I wouldn't be able to get in the garden because it's just not a sort of normal thing in the middle of a town.
No, absolutely. Of course. So you planted 600 trees. Was that the first thing you did, was get the trees in the ground?
Yes, pretty much, because we got it in late January. And so if we hadn't have put the trees in, it would have been another year before we got a chance to... So
did you do bare root?
We did bare root, and my poor mum had to go round. I had a beautiful map which I'd drawn up of like, this is how I want the planting to look, you know.
Yeah.
And she had the unenviable task of walking around and sticking stakes in the ground wherever their trees went. So I had the easy job of just sticking them in the ground, but she had to triangulate each tree's position.
Good work, Mum. And
well done.
What was specific about the planting?
All of it was native. So, you know, native, it's stuff which has been on our island for in the last 20,000 years, arrived here naturally. And the nice thing about that is it's got this relationship with the native invertebrates, with the native birds, so that when you plant native trees, you tend to get a lot more wildlife because they're co-evolved with it. So they're reliant on those species. You know, there's this sort of statistic about oak where like hundreds of different species are dependent on this just one tree. So I made sure that everything was native, and I really tried to plant a very, very broad mix of native trees. So I got over 30 native species of tree on the field, and over time it's been a kind of learning process of being like, oh, I could put that as well. But it's all stuff which you would naturally find in this part of the country and also on this kind of soil as well. So I had to do a lot of research. There's about 180 different native trees in the UK, which is kind of, a lot of them are just sort of species of white beam, because it's one of those things where they're like, this white beam comes from Devon, this one comes from Cornwall.
Yes.
Okay, so they're everywhere.
There's lots of different types of tree there, and it's beautiful because you just walk around and everything looks different all the time, and you're constantly seeing new colors and new shapes and flowers and fruits.
Of course.
And,
so you put those in as bare root back in 2022. What sort of size have you got now with your trees?
How big is, so the tallest one now, which is black poplar, is maybe like 5-6 meters tall.
Wow.
It's gone up so I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
That's
but like
really fast.
We have a native black poplar which is really threatened in the UK. It's almost got to the point of extinction a few years ago, and there's been this really big effort over the last few years of like planting them back out again. Poplar's got these lovely heart-shaped leaves which kind of flutter a little bit in the breeze, and it just I had no idea that it would just go up like the clap, you know. It just shot up.
Speedy one.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've been able to take cuttings from it as well, because poplar roots, just like willow, I think it's in the willow family, maybe. It's some taxonomic level, it's very closely related to willow, so you can just stick a cane
in the ground.
Just go straight up.
I remember Sweet Pea's granddad saying how he had put a fence post in, and a willow fence post, and it grown into willow tree.
So they're awesome like that.
What was specific about where you were placing them?
I was trying to make it feel naturalistic, so like in the same way that like kind of
it's hard
prairie
to do,
garden,
isn't it?
It's very hard to do.
You think, just kind of chuck them everywhere and it kind of will happen. But actually, no, it's very precise.
and even when you're planting, so like when you're planting trees, if you try and plant them in a random pattern, what you realise when you look back is like it just follows the track of where you're walking, and you just get a line. So it's really hard to like break that pattern and make it look random.
And also we found that when you try to make something random, it looks so contrived in its randomness. So it's really hard to hit that sweet spot, isn't it?
And I don't think I quite got the kind of clustering right, because if you got really random patterns, you get like dense clusters and kind of spaced out clusters, whereas mine are all like
evenly
this amount
out.
apart. Which is not what you would have in nature, you know.
But it sounds an absolute dream. So you could be ending up with a really decent arboretum.
That's kind of like the idea, and really the people who visited recently have described it as a nature reserve, and it does kind of feel like a nature reserve. So I am trying to sort of go, I'm going to plant these trees, what else pops up is up to the field. And I've also leaned into what the field sort of, I say it sort of wants to do stuff. So like in one area there was like a reed bed sort of starting to encroach on the field, so I put in a pond there and have allowed the reed bed to encroach. And there's parts of the field which are very damp, so I've kind of leaned into that and left that to do its thing, kind of get damper and damper over time and become a pond or become a kind of wet flush or
Oh, it's so exciting. Genuinely, it sounds exciting to get that space and be able to do all those things. You mentioned earlier about a grant. So you remortgaged the flat to buy the field. And then where did the grant come into it?
So there's that whenever a housing development affects a pond which contains great crested newts, I don't know if most people know about great crested newts as the kind of impediment to building. They're the kind of thing which gets in the way of building. So that they came up with this system a few years ago, which works really, really well, where whenever a great crested newt pond is filled in or removed, 4 more are created in its place.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And actually, at the moment, the uptake of the new ponds in terms of how many have got great crested newts in them is 50%. So we're actually getting double the number of great crested newt ponds that we started with.
Well, that's brilliant.
So I leaned into this scheme and basically, they came out and dug these massive ponds. And I asked for 7 and they said they'd never put so many in such a small area before. But I was like, well, it is a nature reserve.
Yeah.
So you've got 7 ponds then?
Well, I've got a lot more now because I keep digging them. It's a bit of a habit. It's a bad habit, Yeah.
Oh, no,
well, there are worse habits to have. It's Chris. Another pond. And what sort of size are they?
It depends on the time of year because, in summer they can completely shrink down to nothing. Yeah. Some of them hold water throughout the year, but they're about maybe like 10, 15 meters across. Probably 15 meters across from end to end when they're full.
Yeah.
And then maybe, 8 meters across the other way. So bigger than my garden, really.
I was just going to say, bigger than your garden. And presumably you're not lining any of these.
No, because I'm on low-lying land there, because it's part of the Somerset Levels. Basically, it used to be under the sea. It's now not under the sea, but it's drained. So, water sits easily on the surface there.
Yeah.
And it's a good way of kind of slowing down that water and letting it filter into the land a bit more, especially over the summer, because it means you got a bit more water in the neighbouring areas as well.
It just sounds so idyllic. You said people come to visit. Is that just friends and family, or do you have some sort of system set up now that people visit?
Yeah, so usually it's friends and family, or it's people, I've had podcasts and sort of, actually the Gardeners World team came out to the field, but they didn't use that segment, mainly because it was kind of a, when you're trying to talk about the garden and you've got this other thing, it's a bit of a distraction from the story, I think. And
it's a separate
I think they made
story,
it quite
isn't
cool.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could they use that bit though for another segment another time?
Potential. I don't know that they filmed a lot there. It was more of a kind of pick up to be like, this is, and if we're talking about the field, then we've got this shot. But they may, maybe they'll come back. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, I hope they do. It'd be so wonderful to see. So can the general public visit? Or
there is a public footpath. I don't publicize the location only because I got to the point where I had a lot of people wanting to go there, and it's a very small space relative to, other nature reserves. And it has things like snipe, which kind of ground nesting. They're not nesting, but they spend a lot of time on the ground. They're very, very easily disturbed by public.
Yeah, right.
And skylark. I've got skylark potentially looking into breeding there, and a lot of other breeding birds. So like the more disturbance you get, the worse it is for the wildlife which is there. So I do have a public footpath through the middle, which is fab. And I've made it into a very large area in the middle because I don't like, when I'm walking through the countryside, I don't like to feel hemmed in by fences or anything like that.
No.
And I'm trying to enrich that area in the middle, so it's also got tree planting and ponds and stuff, so it feels like a nice place to be in.
So I know in your garden you set up trail cameras and you were catching badgers and foxes. I imagine you're getting all sorts of things in the field. What are you getting there?
Well, there's so many different things. So we've got grass snake, which bred in one of the ponds this summer.
Oh,
so we had loads of tiny baby grass snakes swimming around the ponds, which is they're smaller than the width of your little finger.
Yeah,
and they eat tadpoles, so they're trying to get their mouth around this gigantic tadpole. It was great. Like watching
that is very funny.
I didn't know that they nest in the pond.
They nest in compost piles or haystacks, and I've basically put, whenever I cut the grass, I pile it up into big piles because I know they're good refuges and I know they're a good place for its nest. But it's once they've hatched, they then head into ponds to hunt because it's easy prey.
I didn't know that.
I have seen this actually once or twice. I remember seeing at my grandfather's pond a grass snake just went through the water, and I was like, oh gosh, what's the snake doing in the water? And then he was like, well, they're doing the nesting and hunting and everything.
It's such an amazing sight to see them swimming. And it was one of I had some sort of target species when I started putting the field together, and that was one of them. And I was like, because I knew that they were in the area, but it turns out that there's quite a few on the field, and you see their shed skins sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just so cool.
How wonderful. Cool. And what else are you getting on your trail camera?
Yeah, so I've seen badgers. I've seen badgers once on the field where it was trundling along and it didn't know I was there, and I was very quiet, and it came out in front of me, which is really cool.
And then did it spot you and freak out?
Yes. Yes, and it ran very fast. But then we get badgers in the back garden, and I actually had 2 badgers having a play fight on the deck outside my bedroom window the other night. And one of them pushed the other one into the pond.
No, that's rude.
And it climbed back out. It was soaking wet. It was really funny.
That's like the sort of thing you get in Canada where people catch bears getting into their pools.
Yeah.
And playing on their swings and things. But we just have it with badgers.
Yeah, slightly smaller.
And it's so cool to have it in like an urban area as well.
Yeah.
Really.
Amazing. We had a badger. I take the dog out for her evening ablutions, and I was out there with a torch, and this badger didn't even seem to notice me, even though I was shining a torch at it. Or it noticed me and was just like, yeah, well,
yeah,
just was wandering through our beds, not a care in the world, really. And they're such solid little things, aren't they? They really
are.
like
chunk.
Seem to be really chunky, muscular
yeah.
beasts. I wouldn't like to come on the wrong side of a badger.
No,
they got really powerful claws as well. So,
they have got powerful claws.
And do you have much in the way of deer on your field?
I have an excess of deer.
Oh, really?
Deer, that's it.
Are they a problem?
Yes. I love seeing them. Honestly, whenever I see them, I'm like, it's so, it's so beautiful. Like I was out there the other night, and there were a few sort of walking through, and it was just so lovely to watch. But they do absolutely trash the trees, and because there's probably more than you get in like a natural population, because there's no control on them in the area, it means that I've taken a tree out of a tree tube which was maybe 2 inches in diameter, and I had to fairly decent size, and I had to put it back in the tree tube again because they just they'd tore all of the bark off like 3/4 of the trunk, so it was only hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it?
But they are part of the
part.
It's a case of kind of working around them, being like, how can we get around? It does mean that things are in tree tubes, which is not really what you want when you kind of look at this natural space. But at some point, they will get mature enough, and there'll be so many of them that hopefully the damage will be kind of mitigated a bit,
Yeah. At what stage do you think they can come out of tree tubes?
I don't know. I thought 2 inches was enough.
Yeah, it
hang
seemed
on
enough.
A bit more.
Yeah. I was like, well, this thing seems massive,
but nope.
But apparently not.
It sounds an absolute dream.
Yeah.
Oh, it is,
I feel like I know what direction your dream garden's going to head in.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right, dream garden time. What would be the garden boundary, so surrounding your garden, if you want one?
So I've got hedges because they're fantastic wildlife corridors. Hedges are not a natural thing anywhere, because they're this kind of like controlled thing of like lines of bushes and stuff. You don't get these like linear forms in nature apart from rivers, but they do actually perform this really incredible role of like allowing wildlife to move from one part of the landscape to the other. So like, hedges definitely. And the thicker, well, it's not necessarily the thickness, but also the variation in thickness as well. Because if you've got like very large, thick areas and then kind of smaller, narrow areas, you get the benefit of that is that you get kind of south facing very hot areas, and then you get like north facing very cool areas, and then you get everything in between as well. So it's that kind of variation. And the density of the vegetation is great for bird nesting as well. Like I've got linnets nesting on some of the fields, and they've only started nesting this year, and I think it's because the hedges have just got that wide and that dense. Linnets are like a red list bird in the UK, so it's fab to sort of see them.
Brilliant.
Were the hedges already in when you got your field?
Yes, and it was one of the things that drew me to it, frankly, because they were so thick. The only thing about them is there's not a lot of species in the hedge, and that's one of the things which you can actually tell the age. There's this thing called the Hooper formula, where if you go along 100-foot length of hedge and then count all of the different woody species in it, so hawthorn, blackthorn, willow, all of that kind of jazz, then you can multiply that by 100. So 100-foot length, number of species, times 100 gives you roughly the age of the hedge. Because as a hedge gets older and older, more species work their way into it through, bird droppings or picked up on animals' feet. Yeah. So that the more diverse the hedge is, the older it is generally, and the more, the better it is for wildlife, because that diversity of plant species then supports the diversity of insect species and above that. So I thought, if I'm going to have a boundary, I want it to be as diverse as possible, get it going from the get-go.
So have you checked that formula out on your hedges and worked out how old they are?
Yes, and the problem is it works better when they're like 300 plus years old, because like you get so much like variation in the first like 100 years or so. Yeah, I've only got hawthorn. I've got hawthorn, blackthorn, ash, and white willow as well. Mm-hmm. Right. So I've got 4 species, which would technically make it, but then they're not within 100-foot length. There's only about 2, maybe 3 in 100-foot length, so that would probably make them like 300 years old.
Right.
Crikey, I didn't
know
about
even
this.
That is incredible.
Yeah. I think that's pretty amazing in itself.
Yeah, like you can look back at the aerial survey images taken by the RAF from 1946, and you can see what hedges used to be around in the UK and like how, it's really cool to sort of see the change, because that's nearly 100 years, 80 years ago, You can see how much they developed over that time, and they were hedges out there even back then.
I've never considered hedge. I mean, I've considered hedges, but I've never considered the age of them. And even the process of someone planting a hedge 300 years ago.
The other thing about the age of them is that like the longer something, I didn't really understand this when I first got into sort of rewilding and stuff. I thought, you had diversity was really important, and kind of connection to the rest of the landscape, or kind of dispersal was what I call it. I knew that they were really important, and also disturbance. If you kind of disturb habitats in a kind of natural way, it allows more diversity to appear, because you're creating little ponds in the ground, or you're kind of chopping a tree down, which allows lots of other trees to come in its place. I didn't realize how important the age of a feature in the landscape was. And I've realized, since having the field, how over time you get more and more diversity, because more and more stuff finds its way there. Yeah. And it takes time for those things to establish. Yeah. So leaving something in place for a really long time means that it has greater benefit for wildlife, because you get this lovely community appearing. Yeah. And there's stuff like fungi, which might take hundreds of years to come into, even though it's spores in the air. It takes a really long time for fungi to get established.
Gosh, how interesting.
Yeah, because I've always thought the same as you, just kind of needs to be diverse. You need to look after it, but don't kind of go over the top and just kind of let it do its thing. And I always thought, oh, well, that's kind of doing it. I've never, ever thought about the age of anything.
No, and it's literally just, it's also being in this garden for 8 years, and I've never had a garden for that long before. Yeah. So I've realised that over time you get more and more stuff coming in, and that diversity really gets established.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So in your dream garden, what would you have in that hedge? You've mentioned some of the ones you've got already. Would you add some more to that?
Yeah, there's so many different tree species which you can have. The thing about the hedges as well is you really want a variety of different kinds of plants. So you don't just want the scrubby kind of shrubs like hawthorn and blackthorn. You also want emergent trees. Just like in a rainforest, you have like those emergent trees that come out of the canopy. Yeah. You want that in a hedge as well. And it's not just for the benefit of the hedge, it also provides the shelter for any livestock or any wildlife. Like if you've got horses in a field and you don't have trees, you have to protect the horses. Whereas if you've got trees, they've got that protection, that kind of natural protection. Yeah. And there's also climbers as well. So things like Old Man's Beard.
Yes. You have
or
in your
Traveller's
garden.
Joy. People call it Traveller's Joy. Yeah. And, honeysuckle is fab. There's so many different things. And I think it's like hedge madder or field madder.
I've heard of
it's
that.
This crazy looking plant which doesn't look like it would be native at all, but it is. And it's just got the most interesting looking leaves as well, which you just don't expect from kind of a native species. And stuff like black bryony, which is this fab thing which I only found about because I saw this plant and I was like, what the heck is that? And it's this
what is that?
highly toxic plant, but it's got these lovely kind of heart-shaped leaves, like another kind of vine.
Yeah.
But there's so many different climbers, and as over time I've kind of, as my eye has adjusted to just as you do in the garden centre, you're like, oh, I know that plant now. I can recognize it when it's in I have the same thing when I go to the countryside, and I'm like, oh, I know, I can see at a distance a tree now and kind of get a vague idea of what species it is.
You say you grew up in a very sort of ecologically friendly family. Yes. What is your background?
So, I started out, I did like a zoology degree, and then I went into wildlife filmmaking, essentially, editing. So, you do editing on the podcast, but with TV editing, you have a sort of varying degree of control over what the program looks like. But in some cases, you might basically take all of the footage. So they have this thing called a shooting ratio. Mm-hmm. There's a ratio of how much film is shot on location versus how much ends up in the final edit.
Right.
Usually on a program that would be 10-1. So you'd have 10 times the amount of footage that actually ends up in the program. Mm-hmm. On a big blue chip production like Planet Earth, it was 1,000-1. Mm-hmm. So the role of the editor is really important because it shapes how the program looks. They're the ones saying, I think we should have this shot. I think we should have this shot. I think this is how. And in some cases, they shape the story as well, though that's kind of between the editor and producer. So it's a really sort of creative, interesting role where you get to make loads of creative decisions, and it really appealed to me. So I went into that, but I just burnt out, frankly. And the TV show I ended up editing at the end was the One Show.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up doing the little VTs. So when they cut away and say, and now we're going to this person in the field, that would be the bit I would cut.
Right.
Yeah.
So you stopped that, and what did you do after that?
I did I've got a lot in my career. Whenever anyone asks, they're like, "Oh God, I wish I didn't."
No, I love hearing all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I did a postgraduate degree. So I did a master's in biotechnology. I wanted to do an ecology master's, couldn't get onto it because I hadn't done ecology at uni. I'd done zoology.
Okay.
Then I applied for an ecology PhD, couldn't get onto that, so I ended up doing a year of the PhD in plant genetics. So very much aligned with sort of gardening.
Yeah,
I was growing up plants, working out what the different genes did. But it's not something I necessarily align with now, but like it's certainly got me into gardening, and not that I wasn't into gardening, but it really got me focused on like plants and then I needed to get a job because I had a kid. So I got a year into the PhD, and then we were like, you know what, we're pretty short on money. We need a bit of money. So I went out to unfortunately the real world and got a job in marketing, and then sort of hacked my way back into ecology again, worked for like an ecological consultancy, did a few jobs for a few other ones, then set up my own ecological consultancy, so advising landowners.
We saw that. So you've got a couple of websites. Regenerator, is that right? It's one of them.
Yeah.
Can you explain a bit about those websites?
Yeah. So the big one is Hattery Wild, which is hatterywild.co.uk. I have to plug it.
That's all right. We'll put that on the website.
Great. And that is a free resource for anyone who wants to bring back nature in their garden, in a field, in small holding, on a farm. And basically, as I was learning about how to do it for myself on the field, I was like, essentially like blogging about it. But now it's turned into this massive library of information because I spent a while trying to create this sort of subscription service for landowners where they could access all of this different information about, so whatever habitat they had, it would say, this is how you shape this habitat, this is how you improve the diversity there, this is how you protect the areas which need protecting. So there's just a astonishing amount of content on Hattery Wild, which is all free. So in the end, I've kind of switched to doing, advisory paid sessions, which is so interesting because I get to have a proper conversation with the people, find out exactly what their land is
tailor
like,
it for them,
and tailor it to them. And it's
so interesting.
And did a garden design for a couple in, I think it's Lincolnshire, earlier in the year, and then Gardeners World came knocking after that because I put up some stuff on Instagram to sort of promote Hattery Wild. But I have Buy Native as well. I have several different websites. I got Buy Native, which is, if you're looking for native plants, it's usually quite hard to find the actual plant. You order a plant online, and the thing which turns up is not the thing which you actually wanted to order. It's a cultivar or whatever, or you can't find them. And I spoke to someone who's the head of the, Horticultural Association or something like that. But I said, there's this problem that people want to buy native plants and they can't find them. And he said, well, you need to demonstrate that desire, that demand. And if you can demonstrate that demand, there's going to be more supply.
Mm-hmm.
So the demand has to come before the supply.
Mm-hmm.
So people have to know that if they're going to grow up these native plants for nurseries, that they're actually going to get sold. So I created this website, which is like a sort of database of different native plants. It's only got maybe 120 or something, but it's enough to stock a garden with.
Yeah.
And it lets you find out all about, what soil type they need and
everything.
And it links to independent nurseries where you can buy them. So I don't make any money off that. It's just a kind of pet project. And then Regenerate is just it's just the paid consultancy service, basically.
Right. I see. Well, I'll put links to those 3 websites. Have you got any more that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, any more?
I am actually working on one at the moment. Yeah, I've got So I've got a new project which is called Treacle, which I haven't spoken about yet, which is like the word tree and then like a treacle.
Yeah, I like it.
And treacle.org, and it is literally only just gone live, but it's gone live as a very bare bones thing. So I'm building up the database over time of tree information. So there's 480 different trees on there, I think, and trees and shrubs. And the idea is that it's the one place you go to if you want a tree or shrub for your garden. You can compare, the different properties of them. You can look at pictures. Haven't got pictures set up yet. Pictures are a whole new thing. It's got distribution maps as well, so it lets you know where they are found in the wild.
Yeah,
and whether they're native to the UK.
Crikey.
Yeah.
Well, on the dream garden front, would you like a shed or a greenhouse if you had to choose?
So I've actually gone here for a polytunnel, which is a bit of a controversial thing in nature.
That's all right.
But like, I don't know.
They are good.
They are really good, and the nice thing is it's kind of that diffuse light, and they don't get too hot. There's this company up in Swansea area which I visited, which is like a native plants nursery, and they are growing up sphagnum moss, which is bog moss, and they're growing it in massive polytunnels. And I was looking at that, going like, "Oh my god, I would love to have that!" Like
that's what you like to have,
because it's really hard to grow it up otherwise, because you need it when you're growing it from scratch. You really need like ideal conditions.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get it growing when it's in the outdoors, or even if it's in a greenhouse or something, might get too hot for it.
Interesting. So that's interesting, because on the show you showed us this sphagnum moss in your bog, and then
bog area.
Monty made the point after your segment to say, do make sure you get it from a sustainably
from a sustainable source, which I actually said on the day, but they made sure they put that in. Yes, because that was one of the main emphases, but I think they didn't want to sort of labour the point.
So that's where you're getting yours from, is Swansea?
So there's a company called Moss Clarks who are like these moss nuts. They're fantastic. And they sell lots of different types of moss, and one of them is sphagnum. So
are they Scottish based?
They are, I think. Yeah.
And
I think they've been at flower shows. If you've seen.
Is he Western
European? Yes, I think Eastern. I think he's Eastern European.
Eastern European.
Yeah.
He was on Garden as well.
He was.
We looked.
Was he?
Yeah.
They did a section on the moss, and that's when I finally kind of was interested in moss. Before I just thought, it's that little green thing on the floor.
Yeah.
And then actually, it's quite interesting and does.
Yeah, it opened our eyes up to just this whole world of moss that we were totally oblivious to.
It's so cool, because the closer you get, the more interesting it is. Yeah, and that's what I love about moss. Whereas with a lot of garden plants, they look better from a distance. Yeah. It's nice to have something which on a really small scale feels really interesting and intricate.
Yeah, that's such a good one. I loved especially when you had the tweezers on the program. I like that. Looks like the most satisfying thing to be doing when you have the time, not when you don't have the time. Otherwise, that's going to be stressful with tweezers.
It looks very meditative, didn't it? Yeah, and you were using. We should explain. You were using the tweezers to pick out any little rogue weeds that had come into your bog, swampy area.
Because it like in a wild bog, it would be on top of a hill. It would be conditions which are not really suitable for trees to grow up, and in a lot of cases are very hard for other plants to come in. My bog, because it's in quite a warm garden, and bits of it can dry out from time to time. It's much easier for terrestrial plants to get established on it, so land plants to come in and seeds to get established. So I need to do that work of making sure that they don't take over.
Right, crikey. So I'm trying to understand, in the polytunnel, how do you have the moss?
They have it in trays, like the kind of trays you have underneath pots.
Yeah.
Those long trays, and they put cut sphagnum on the trays, and then they grow up. I don't know what substrate they're using though, because that's the interesting thing for me is like I've tried it with kind of slightly peaty compost, which I should not do. But the point is, it creates peat. So if you're using sphagnum on peat, it is creating it from scratch. And I don't like to use peat compost, but I wasn't quite sure what to do other than that. So it would be nice to know exactly what they're using in order to do it for myself, because I've tried doing it on gravel, and the gravel it hasn't established very well. I don't know if that's because it was the time of year or what. I'm also doing it in the field. I've got like a very large pond area out in the field where I've put hessian sacking across the surface of the pond. This pond has been created specifically for a bog, so it's only maybe a foot deep across, and it's very flat. So usually you would have kind of gradations in a pond, whereas this is a completely flat basin. I've put hessian sacking, which are suspended above the water on kind of wire. It's very elaborate. It's like a whole spider's web. Yeah. And then I've put sphagnum on that, and that's actually done okay.
Now then, 5 ornamentals that you'd have in your dream garden.
So, of course, I have gone for native plants, because
yes, of course. That's my thing. Can't wait to hear these.
But I tried to find like the most interesting native plants, kind of unexpected. So the first one is royal fern, which is Osmundia regalis, which is this it's this incredible thing, which I saw it first in France and was like, what an incredible plant. It is gigantic. It's sort of the height of bracken, but it looks like an ornamental fern. Huge, beautiful leaves, and it's got these kind of pollen spikes which reach all the way up beyond the top of the plant in season. It's just this incredible looking thing. And I stumbled across one in the UK on Shapwick Heath, which is there's this kind of bit of Shapwick Heath in Somerset Levels, which feels like it hasn't been touched for hundreds and hundreds, maybe 1,000 years. And there's plants there which I've never seen anywhere else. It's like walking into this kind of undiscovered rainforest or something. And one of the things which you find there is royal fern. And it's just this most incredible looking plant.
Right.
Yeah. Amazing.
How does it differ from other ferns that you'd see?
It's just huge. Like, honestly,
so
it's about
the size of
it
that makes it.
Yeah. It's gigantic and really big, obviously, because it's so tall. It's very big, sort of side to side. You find it growing on riverbanks usually, so it's really good for pond edges.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's got the sort of delicate beauty of a fern with the scale and structure of something which you would normally get an ornamental from another country to do.
Yeah.
Oh yes, of course. Well, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Then what are the other ornamentals?
So I've got Guelder Rose, Viburnum opulus, which is a native plant, and it's a shrub, and it is a beautiful thing. And, it's got these sort of blackcurrant, is it blackcurrant? Red currant like leaves, and the red currant like fruit. Which I'm not so I've read in some places that you can eat it and other places that it's toxic, so
right.
I don't know. Not eat it then.
I don't know, like maybe don't eat it. But it also it has these amazing flowers which are like those kind of ornamental hydrangeas which only have flowers around the edges, and they're just stunning. And the fact that you get this growing in the wild, and even near where I live there's like one growing up on the Mendips. It's such a beautiful plant.
Nice. I think we've had a Guelder Rose before, haven't we?
We've had a Guelder Rose.
Oh, really?
Before.
Yeah, sounds familiar. Yeah. Nice choice.
I like that one a lot. Lovely.
Then I've got herb Paris quadrifolia. Have you had that one?
No.
So, what is this?
When I was like 19, I used to go out from Bristol into these woods, on my bike, and there was this really crazy looking plant which I thought was an invasive. I thought it been dumped there from someone's garden, but it's this incredible looking thing which has got a stem which goes out through the center, and it's got like almost like rhododendron, kind of those four spaced out leaves, but they're perfectly symmetrical, and then it has the flower spike which comes up directly through the middle, which turns into a berry. So it's just the most alien looking thing ever, and it grows really well in shady conditions. So if you've got a shady garden, there's not, you're sort of limited to some extent in what you can plant. And herb Paris is fantastic for that. It's just this crazy alien looking thing which somehow is native.
I'm just Googling it. It seems to be quite is it a ground cover type plant?
Yes.
It's quite low to the ground, isn't it?
Sorry, I should have said, it's sort of shin height.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks
does
beautiful.
look really weird.
It is really weird.
Thing.
And to find out that it's just been in the UK for, thousands of years.
Have you seen it
so
since your bike trips?
I've never seen it. Not since that first time. I have never seen it growing in the wild. So I don't know how common it is, but it is just beautiful.
Never heard of it.
Very, very nice
interesting
one. That's a new one on the list.
Cool. Then I've got Butcher's Broom, Ruscus aculeatus. Have you had that one before?
No.
Yeah. So this is, again, it's a kind of usually about shin height, but it's like an equivalent of box, which has very, very spiky leaves. It's evergreen. And you used to get it growing in a lot of hedgerows, and it tends to not be planted anymore, which is why you tend to not get it. It loves shady conditions. I've seen parts of I've seen large stands of it in Normandy where it's growing underneath an oak forest, and it's literally like ground cover across a huge area. And it looks like something you would plant in a garden. It's got these kind of beautiful spiky green leaves, which are evergreen, and these beautiful bright red berries, which come out like holly at Christmas time. I have seen it in the UK on the ex-estuary below a hedge, which must have been a very old hedge, for it to have this thing there. And I've planted it in the garden as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
but
again,
it's hard to get.
Looking that one up, it seems to be used in sort of alternative medicine.
Really?
Good for your blood vessels. I can't get more detail than that at the moment. What it's doing to your blood vessels, I don't know. But it seems to be an extract that you can buy from, health food shops.
The reason it's called Butcher's Broom is that they used to attach it to the end of brooms and use it instead of, the twigs or something to kind of sweep the floor with, because it's so strong and tough. Yeah.
Oh, great. I love hearing all these new plants.
I like that a lot, actually. And then the last one.
The last one, I have chosen a very weird one, which is round-leaved sundew, which is the tiniest of plants.
Round-leaved sundew.
It's maybe, the size of a 50p coin, but the closer you get, the more beautiful it is. And it's a carnivorous plant that you get in bogs in the UK. It's actually very common. So you find it across lots of bogs, but people don't notice it because you have to get down on your hands and knees almost to actually spot them. Yeah. But they're so delicate and so beautiful. They've got little, kind of the point about sundews is they've got these kind of little hairs which have got sticky bits on the end, and stuff gets stuck to those sticky bits and digested.
Pretty little plants.
I've got a bog garden and I would love to get that established, but it's just a question of getting the seeds. Right. At the moment, because I got given a handful of seeds by the Celtic Wildflowers, who are that native plants nursery with the polytunnel. But at the time I didn't have somewhere which it could really get established. Now I've got better bogs, because it's taken me a while to work out how to sort of grow a bog and grow it in a way which it thrives rather than just dies off. So yes.
So how would you start growing that from seed?
I don't know. I think you would just stick it in the bog and just see what happens. You'd put it straight in the
bog and see.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
that would be a beautiful addition, wouldn't it?
That would.
Well, yeah, and the thing about bogs is one of the things which they're quite useful for is you can stick stuff into them if you want them to root. So if you have a cutting and you want it to root, rather than sticking it into rooting hormone and into a pot or something, you can stick it directly into the bog, and because it's got those ideal growing conditions, it can start rooting, then you can take it back out again.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
That's quite cool.
I really like the idea of the bog, because you had your plumbing all set up so that it came from the guttering on your roof down a pipe into a tank and then out into the bog. Was that right?
Yeah, that's right. And then from the bog out into the pond.
Yeah, yes, that was it. Yeah, fantastic. I really was keen on the whole bog idea.
Yeah. We've kind of really thought about how if you've got so much rain coming off through gutters and just kind of gushing randomly down the lawn or whatever, which happens so much. I mean, we've got it. Sometimes we see it gushing down the steps. We have steps that kind of go down the side of the house.
Comes like a waterfall.
And I just watch it like a waterfall. And I'm like, we could so use that water now.
But we do already. I mean, we collect. That's the overflow from all the butts. So we've got butts everywhere. But I'd love to incorporate things like bogs, and then going into a pond. And
I saw it a long time ago where some garden designer had designed a feature which only worked. I think it was at Chelsea. There was a garden designer who had created a system which only had water in it during the rain, and it would just take that overflow, and it was a rill or something like that. And it just added that interest during the rain. But the problem is you don't normally go in the garden during the rain. So the nice thing about the bog is because it's like a sponge and it slowly releases water, it keeps releasing that water for maybe an hour afterwards. So you still got that flow.
And then when it goes into the pond, where does the overflow go from there?
Yeah.
I've then got like a very large area under the steps. I was talking about all that concrete I had to get rid of. All of that is like underneath my steps. So I've created a basin underneath the steps, filled it up with concrete, and that's the soak away. So it all goes into there, and then it just slowly soaks into the ground.
I love that setup.
Yeah,
I
brilliant.
just got my cogs whirring thinking about putting a bog somewhere, Sweet Pea.
Oh no, is that the next thing we're going to be doing?
It's a slippery slope.
Well, what would be 5 edibles for the dream garden?
5 edibles. So some of these are a bit predictable, I'm afraid, but
that's okay.
I just, you
can have a carrot if you want.
I was realistic about what I would use.
Yeah.
And the first one is wild garlic, allium ursinum.
Oh, we love that.
Which, is great for pesto.
You can't go wrong, can you?
And the flowers are gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I grow it in my garden, and we use it instead of spinach or something in sandwiches sometimes, and it's got that little bite to it.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with wild garlic. Do you have that in your garden?
Yeah, so I planted it in this garden when I first moved here.
Oh, right.
Because I thought it would be nice to be able to sort of forage from the garden.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. Then the second one is a very obvious one, which is apple.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got an orchard out on the field, and the thing about orchards is because apple trees they're not native, but they are very, very close to the native tree, which is the crabapple. They have a lot of the benefits that a crabapple would have because they've got similar flowers, they've got similar leaves. So there's a lot of insects and a lot of species which love apple trees in general. So it's not just that it's great for us, because honestly, pretty much the only fruit I eat is apples because I love them so much.
Yeah.
Oh, well, then perfect.
Yeah. But it's also that they're great for nature as well. And like we're losing old orchards at quite a lick in the UK. And old orchards
really?
Because so the price of cider, I think or the demand for cider has gone down, something like that, which means that they're sort of the apple orchards which were being created are no longer as valuable, and the old ones, people aren't looking after them because they don't realize the value in them, the ecological value.
Having said that, apple cider vinegar, there's so much talk about the health benefits of it, so I would have thought that would be a nice sort of offshoot from cider. If cider is declining in popularity, start pushing the apple cider vinegar side of things. So the orchard on your land, is that an area that is quite regimented like an orchard in Rose, or are you still wild there? So you've got a nice ordered
It's
part.
a very obvious contrast between the kind of rows of the orchard and the more naturalistic planting around it. Yeah, and I like
beautiful,
you know what? I like a good row.
Yeah,
it's quite satisfying.
But to have the two diverse sides to it, it's nice to see a bit of order, so you know that there's some human intervention, and then to have the more wild nature reserve. And is it enclosed, or is it there's no border?
At the moment, it's not. I think I may have to do that in the future, partly because I call that the farm, that bit of the field. There's the orchard, there's some growing beds, which I am yet to plant out because I know that the deer will just tear into anything which I plant there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So I need to put some fencing up just to keep them out of that area, really. So ideally, it's just a question of cost because fencing is very expensive.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
It is.
Sure.
It takes
and much as there are lovely natural alternatives like willow fences and stuff, the deer also love willow fences because they love eating them.
That's no good, is it?
No, that isn't going to work. Oh, that's a good choice. Third, fourth, and fifth edibles.
So I've got sorrel, which you get everywhere. Tastes like apple peel. It's this gorgeous thing, Rumex acetosa. Nice. Then I've got rock samphire, which is a bit of a left field one.
So rock samphire, that grows on the coast?
Yes, and because I'm on the coast, there's quite a lot of it near me. So I've just collected a load of seeds of it for a green roof, which I'm putting together, and I'm hoping, I think it should grow on that. But we'll have to see.
Very good. And do you forage it then on the coastline?
So whenever we go onto the coast, we eat a bit of rock samphire. It's just such an unexpected and kind of pleasing taste. But you don't want to eat too much of it because then it becomes a bit overpowering.
Yes.
Well, what I tend to do is go for it in season. Because it's only in season for a short amount of time, and get to the point of feeling sick of it, and then the season's passed, so I'm ready for it next year.
So we're ready for it now.
We're
like, come on, let's go. Well, I like that one a lot, and the last one.
Yeah, And then I've got bramble. Last one.
Bramble, yep.
Also really
can't go wrong.
I mean, there's so many berries on it, you know, and then it's so good for nature. It's like brambles are just so underrated in terms of like the value they provide, not just because they're really good for nesting habitat or something, but they're also that kind of nursery habitat that trees can then grow through without getting attacked by deer.
Oh, that's such a good point.
We go for broke on the bramble front around all our edges. We have a neighbour though who doesn't like it around our borders, so he'll come and he'll scrim them away, which is frustrating. In fact, he just did it this morning.
It's easier at the field than it is in the garden, because I am a bit like I've made the mistake of putting teasel in my garden, and it's just gone everywhere, and like the whole neighbourhood is now like infested. And my neighbour,
how dare you, Chris?
Yeah,
what have you done?
I know. I've had to be like pulling it up to make sure it doesn't go any further, and it's a lovely plant, but my God, does it take over?
It's a bit of a rogue, but it does provide so much. We have one majestic teasel plant by the pond, and we sat on right next to the bench, luckily self-seeded, and we would sit there for ages just watching all the insects come on it. Absolutely love it, and it's always busy and full of many different species of bees, butterflies. They just love it, don't they?
They do absolutely love it.
And it is an insectivorous plant as well, which is sort of an unexpected fact. So it's got
tell me about that.
Is it because of those pockets that it creates?
Yes, so where the leaves meet the stem, there's this kind of like little cup shape, which is like water, but when insects drop into that, it's not so much insectivorous as it releases enzymes or something, but it then uses the nutrients from those insects as sort of plant fertilizer.
Wow.
So insects, and it stops the insects from climbing up the stem as well, which reduces the damage to the higher up parts of the plant.
How interesting.
Oh, that's very, very cool.
That is very cool.
Now I know. I always thought, it's just for like birds to come and drink or something. Also, I was about to ask, because I was going to put buddleia around the pond, because I thought, that's a really good kind of shrubby thing to have around a pond. Butterflies, obviously. Do you have any buddleias near you? Because they can go crazy as well.
The great thing about buddleias is that they are really good in terms of nectar provision. The bad thing about buddleias is that you go into a lot of habitats now and you find that buddleias are starting to take the role of like smaller shrubs and smaller trees and take the resources. You know, you look along the railway lines and you'll see that sort of thing of like just everywhere. And the leaves are, as far as I'm aware, the leaves are not edible. So you won't find a buddleia with like torn apart leaves, because they're not very good foliage for for insects or for deer or whatever else might eat them. So yes, they are really good for nectar provision, but they're not necessarily ideal if you're anywhere near the countryside where they could spread out into, because they have so many seeds. They're just going nuts with the seeds. But you can, if you cut them before they go to seed, which you can do really easily because it takes a long time for the seeds to be viable after the plant has flowered, then you can still have buddleias without them spreading. So it's kind of a, it depends on what your priorities are, basically. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know, because I always thought, these are like the perfect pollinator friendly.
They get so much good press, but actually I think what people don't see is like there are some sort of marginal ecosystems which are really badly affected by them, in the same way that rhododendrons spreading across lots of heaths and stuff. If you go to a lot of like that, train tracks are this example of this kind of transitional habitat between bare rock and an actual kind of full ecosystem. Those habitats are actually quite sparse in the UK. There's not that many of them, and they're really valuable for wildlife. There's some species which you only find in that kind of habitat. Really? And if buddleia moves in, it very quickly colonizes it and then makes it suitable for other species to come in, because it creates the kind of leaf litter which speeds up the process of going from rock to earth,
Then what would be the one tree that you must have?
How are you going to choose?
I know, I was like, how can you do this to me? How can I only have one tree? You. Yeah. Honestly, I was like, how the heck am I going to do this? But I think the thing I most like in the UK is grey willow, which is the least inspiring name.
That's pretty dull.
Beautiful. It's like our olive tree. It's got these beautiful leaves, and I don't know, the structure of the tree is always so interesting, especially if you have it in a windy place. It will grow in this incredibly evocative kind of bent over and gnarled form. It's this low growing thing which is fantastic for wildlife. Like, if you want to see where the birds are in a tree, in a field which has got grey willows in, just look at the grey willows and they'll be in there. It's just I once kind of, when I was growing up, we used to visit this island off the coast of Wales called Skomer Island, and there was this one willow. I don't know that it was grey willow, but it kind of had that form, and it was the only tree for like a mile around, and it was just this incredible looking thing because it was out there in the wilderness and it was just on its own. And the instant you went into there, you could hear the birds song around you could see everything suddenly come to life.
What do you think it is about the grey willow that draws more birds to it than others?
The willow in general is fab because the leaves are very, very edible. They grow very, very fast, so they're very kind of fleshy and tasty, I guess. So there's just so many things which have evolved, and there's so many different types of willow, and they're so widespread that it's very easy for a species to evolve which eats one kind of willow and then switch over to another one. So I see. They're really valuable because, you know, there's so many different things which eat them. And the things which eat them are then food for the birds, which is why the birds love going in them.
Very nice.
And can they be planted like all other willows where you can just stick a cane in the ground?
Yes.
Great. Right, sweet pea.
Well, that's good.
It's going on the shopping list.
They're going everywhere now. You do.
I mean, you can literally go along a hedgerow and just take some cuttings from a hedgerow, which is what I've done, and stick them in. And the nice thing about taking them from a hedgerow is usually you'll get a genotype, you'll get a kind of genetic form which is adapted to the microclimate near you.
Of course.
Well, I mean,
great idea.
The other winter, because it had to be done in winter because we went for early morning walks, so it was in the dark, and
we did a stealth mission.
We did a stealth mission because Mum really wanted to get some clippings from this willow tree, which
a weeping willow,
slightly over the road. Anyway, so we had to kind of lean over and grab and snip and shove it.
Yeah, we had to do it in the dead of night so he wouldn't notice. We could have probably gone and asked him, but
probably would have been easier.
Probably been a lot easier. But we did go.
I have been there. I've done those nighttime missions where you're like, I don't want someone to see this. I know this is probably fine, but you know, anyone asks any questions, then you're like,
I don't want people to think I'm weird and cutting other people's trees. No. It's just like, okay.
And I don't usually take my kid because I'm like, I might have to run, and if I have to run,
I took my kids.
And this kid can run.
That's good.
Yeah, to be honest, if someone was chasing after us, I'd get out of there quicker than
you'd be alright.
Well then, I feel like this is a slightly redundant question, but would you like a pond or a pool? And what plant would you have in that area?
So obviously a pond.
Obviously.
So the plant I've kind of picked for it is kind of you need quite a big pond. It might need to be clay line. I'm not sure. It might do okay. Common club rush, which is Chernoplectus lacustris, and it is this gigantic thing, which is
so not a bulrush.
It's not a bulrush because the thing about bulrushes is they just go bananas and take over the entire pond very quickly. Okay. And they spread very rapidly. They are really pretty, but they don't look very good in winter. They tend to look a bit knackered. Because I have bulrushes at the field. But the common club rush is just this gigantic thing, and it's got this beautiful kind of glaucous coloured, very thin, very tall stems, which almost look like they wouldn't support themselves or would snap in the wind. But it's just a cool thing.
And what's the flower like?
Yeah, is it a flower or a seed head?
Because it's a rush, it's got this kind of small rushy seed head at the top. But because of the way the rush looks, it actually looks quite striking from a distance. It's kind of this little almost like upside down umbrella without the webbing, you know?
Oh, okay.
I've never heard of this.
I saw it when I went up. My uncle passed away about 2 years ago. And when I went out to his funeral, we went down to the river near my aunt's house, and it was just growing, this incredible thing growing by the side of the river. And I was like, that doesn't look like it's native. It looks like it's come in. And it's just this most surprising thing because it's gigantic and very, very cool looking. It's very structural.
It's not invasive.
I don't wish to say whether it's invasive or not. It does not seem to take over like bulrush does in my pond.
Okay. And you say you'd need a really big pond for it. Why is that?
because it's gigantic. It's very, very tall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it looked kind of out of place if you had a small pond.
Yeah, our pond, and then that.
Yeah, if you only had 2 stems, it would be like, what's the point? You need a stand of it to look good.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So your pond is going to be how big in your dream garden?
Yeah.
So when I initially designed the field, the designs I had were like maybe 80% water, and then there was this little island in the middle.
Yeah.
But then I discovered that you can't get grants to do that. So,
shame.
No.
You just did a series of smaller ones.
Yeah.
Can you slowly join them all up?
The better.
Yeah,
I kind of am doing that to some extent. I'm adding satellite ponds on the edges and kind of extending them a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay. So you would have a lake ideally with an island in the middle.
There is a benefit to having multiple different ponds because you have different water chemistry, different invertebrates, different different light levels and kind of warmth and stuff in each one. So for me, I would have
lots of little ones.
Mosaic, of ponds.
Final question: what would be your favorite seating area, drink to have there, and plant to have by your side?
I wasn't quite sure how to interpret this, but I've gone for like those hanging wicker chairs.
Yep.
Yes.
They just look so comfortable.
Yeah.
And I can't afford one at the moment.
No.
And I would love to be able to afford a hanging wicker chair. That would be lovely.
Hanging wicker chair and with cushions in it?
Yes, definitely.
And would this be, where would you have your hanging wicker chair?
Probably hanging from a tree in this
right.
ideal. Yeah, maybe from that grey willow. I'd be sitting
lovely.
under the grey willow.
Yeah.
And maybe if it was big enough to have me and my kid in it at the same time.
Yes, of course. Well, it's your dream garden, so it will be as big. How old's your kid?
She's 11.
11. Okay.
Aww. Yeah.
We have a hammock that is 2 of us could fit on it, and we still do. But
when I was younger,
when she was younger, and it was just me and her on it, we would dive onto this thing. And now she's taller than me. We very gingerly get in because we're not entirely sure it's going to hold our weight.
But it's so comfy, so it's like we have to go in the hammock.
And it's too sad to think of getting 2 separate hammocks. I don't want to have to do that.
And also, I don't want to have to try and figure out how to swing at the same time.
I know, that could be like a Newton's cradle or something.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah, that wouldn't work very well.
No.
Then what plant would you have and what drink would you have?
So I've actually gone my only non-native plant, my only concession to well, I suppose apart from the apple, I would say an olive tree because I love olive trees.
Oh, they're beautiful.
I just form of them is just so super, and the fact that you get evergreen foliage is lovely. I've got 3 in my front garden.
Have you?
I'd look out.
3 in your front garden? How big's your front garden?
It's relatively small. It's like a kind of pocket garden, but they're like lined up in a. I use them like a hedge.
Right.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah. But they're gnarled old ones,
When you see, so we bought the pot ones, which I think everyone has, the sort of lollipop ones.
Yeah.
And then we were in France and we came across this olive grove. And when you see those old gnarly olive trees,
they're so lovely.
They are so beautiful, aren't they? And they've got so much character to them. Their trunks and
it just transports you to the Med, doesn't it?
It does completely. Yeah.
Because they've got one at the Newton Somerset, which is like a really big famous garden in Somerset, which I used to work for the company which managed that garden.
Don't they sponsor Chelsea Flower Show or something?
Oh, do they? I wouldn't be surprised. They're owned by a billionaire. He has a lot of money to spare.
And there are a few issues because he supports fox hunting.
I mean, he's a South African billionaire. He made his money off some of it off Chinese investments. So
so he's a bit controversial.
Yeah. But
a little bit.
That garden is a cool garden.
It's got gnarly olives, has it?
When I went there, it had this gigantic old gnarled olive tree in this pot, and it just so cool. Yeah,
in a pot. Wow. Would you put any in your nature reserve? Because it's not native, it's not.
I actually did, only because it was a rescue from home. Because I was so obsessed with olive trees that I had 4 of them, and 4 really big ones. But I didn't have the room for the last one, and it was just sat in a pot in my back garden for a while, and it was just getting in the way. So I took it out to the field, and I thought, well, I've got apple trees there. It's just in the corner. It's not going to do any harm. But the problem is the deer were like, oh, fab! A place where we can. So they just tore the trunk off, like all of the bark off the trunk come off.
So that's it. It's gone, is it, or is it still
completely died? Well, completely died from the roots up, and then I've had little bits coming up from the roots, being like, "Oh,
yes,
we're here.
Don't
take us away."
So you're going to fence that bit off then, so they've got to find a chance.
Well, that's in the farm area, so if I get a chance to fence it, it will be protected. So hopefully, it will come back to its former glory.
Hopefully, oh crikey!
So would you want your hanging chair hanging from this olive tree then, rather than from your willow?
Yeah, it might be nice to be. The nice thing about being in a willow is you've got the kind of enclosed. I don't know. It's quite protected from the breeze, and the grey willow is quite low growing, whereas the olive tends to go up. And once it's gone up, then you don't get that protection from the breeze and stuff, or the shade.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Nice. Well, then, final question: the drink. What are you drinking next to you, just to chill out
in your hanging chair with your daughter?
Yeah.
To be honest, I normally have water, but I accidentally created this delicious fizzy alcoholic drink the other day.
Accidentally.
Well, yeah,
just happened.
I haven't drunk alcohol since I was 25. I'm like 38
now,
and we left this kind of plum and grape juice cordial, which we made from stuff growing in the garden. We left it in the fridge too long, and it turned into this like fizzy alcoholic drink. And I was like, well, I can't drink it now. And I thought, you know what, I'll make an exception. So it's so good. It's such a delicious thing. Yeah, it's literally.
How long did you leave it in the fridge for?
It was maybe like 2 months. Yeah,
right.
But plum and grape juice. Oh God, it was so delicious.
Wow. So you'd have that as your drink?
I think so. I'd have to have a small bit at a time, because
and an alcohol-free version, the pre-fermented version.
The pre for the kids, the after for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice, very, very nice. Well, I'm going to read you back the dream garden just in case I've messed anything up or
Go for it.
Need to change anything. So, garden boundary, hedges, huge variety, lots of different kind of widths. So some thick, some thin. Yeah. Super diverse. There was hawthorn, blackthorn. Then you wanted black bryony, wild madder, climbers, trees come in there. Old man's beard, for example. There's the climbers and honeysuckle. And really old. If we can get it really old beforehand somehow, we'll get it old. Because that is ideal.
Not like a Chelsea garden where it just pops up overnight.
No, not one of those. We want a really, really 100-year-old hedge.
Yes.
More.
Yeah, exactly. More than that. Then you wanted a polytunnel for the moss and tree seeds. Yep. Then your 5 ornamentals, native ones. We had royal fern, guelder rose, herb paris, butcher's broom, and the round-leaved sundew.
Yeah.
Your 5 edibles, wild garlic, apple, sorrel, samphire, and bramble.
Yeah, that's right. And it's rock samphire, because you get rock and marsh. Yeah, so rock is a bit tastier than marsh, I think.
Is rock the one is the marsh one on the coastline as well?
Yeah, so you get them in the same place on the nearby coast to me, but on the marsh, on the salt marsh, you get the marsh samphire growing from the ground, and on the rocks, growing out the little crevices, you get the rock samphire.
Okay,
amazing.
Okay, I'll put that down specifically. Then your one tree was the grey willow, lovely choice. Yep. You wanted lots of different ponds with common club rush as your plant, and finally your seating area was a hanging wicker chair with lots of cushions, big enough for 2, in the grey willow with olive trees possibly around, and then the plum and grape juice cordial, the after, so the alcohol form for you, and the before for your daughter.
Yeah. And the nice thing about a wicker chair is you get back support. Much as I love these couches you get in gardens, you sort of lean backwards and you end up on your head.
Yeah.
So, so they look great, but actually in functionality they leave a bit to be desired.
Well, I think that's brilliant.
Beautiful. Does that sound good?
Sounds great to me.
Sounds absolutely stunning, and we'll come and visit.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. That's been a good old chit chat with Chris.
Thank you. It's been lovely to talk to you.